Okay. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Straight Up Talk with Earl Rush, and I'm here with the fabulous co-host Eileen Torres. Give a synopsis of the clip that we just saw, Eileen.
Okay, I asked Mario if it would be okay to start with this clip because, first of all, it's vintage. Second of all, it's from Japan. It's like the equivalent of the Ed Sullivan Show, but for the Japanese audience. So you can tell that a Japanese audience would be very receptive to this because the music was something that was really getting to them. I guess it would be a good thing to say. But we have to think back to, how long ago this was, and the fact that mambo music was really making such a statement on the other side of the world to people who understood no Spanish. Not that you have to understand Spanish to love the music, because a lot of Latin jazz is without words. But what is so tremendous in this band is that there are so many top name jazz musicians who are part of this orchestra. And so what, I can't name everybody who's in there, but Chocolate Armenteros is playing trumpet. I mean, this guy is a legend on himself. Doc Cheatham was the gentleman who was playing the trumpet with the plunger that looked, the toilet plunger. They're really mutes, but I guess in those days that's what you used. I'm not really sure about that history, but there's all of these jazz musicians who form or incorporate this new sound, which is a combination of the Cuban rhythm section with the big band jazz horn section. And so that's why I asked that we play this first, because first of all, Machito is the one that we know the best that really got mambo off the ground back at the Palladium. A lot of people think that this video is from the Palladium, but it's not. This is from Japan. And I hope Mario's going to be able to join us very quickly. We weren't able to work out the technical difficulties. But let me tell you one thing about Mario. once he starts telling you a story, he will elaborate with details that will make you very well informed and so appreciative of the music. And what's so interesting about this is that you've got a guy, Mario Grillo, who actually played in Machito's band. You know, he didn't start playing in it after his father died. He was part of the orchestra that traveled with his father. And now let's think about some of the people that were in there. Mario Bausa, who is the undisputed inventor of Latin jazz. He wrote the first Latin jazz tune called Tanga. And then you've got Machito's sister, Graciela, who was the great songstress and crooner that made you feel romantic on the dance floor, that made you get a little closer, made you feel a little bit spicy. So that's why I wanted to start with that video.
Okay, well,
should I give a couple of tidbits that he told me that I found fascinating?
Yeah, I mean, seems like we're having a problem getting in contact with Mr. Grillo.
I think so. I'm going to call while I'm talking.
Yeah,
but
call him. Tell him he can get it on the. Maybe he can get it on his phone if his internet's not working.
All righty.
Yeah.
I'm going to do that right now.
Yeah, but tell some tidbits or something.
Well,
you can't do everything. I know.
Of something. He's busy. Well, something that I found very fascinating was that he started smoking cigars when he was 5 years old.
Wow.
Yeah. How many people can say that? But he started smoking cigars when he was 5 years old. And actually, his name was supposed to be Jose. His mother named him Jose.
Uh-huh.
But I'm not really sure how the story went. But his uncle Mario convinced his father to change the name to Mario.
Right.
So that's where we go. I'm going to try one more time, and then I'm going to reach for a couple more tidbits.
Mm-hmm.
One thing that I find very interesting is that he never takes a solo on the timbales. He just plays steady time.
Uh-huh.
You know, he was taught that, you know, he wasn't a showman, you know, that he had a purpose in the band.
Right.
And the purpose was, come on. And the purpose was to keep time for the band, you know, and eventually he became the leader. We know that. Oh boy, I don't think this has ever happened to you before, has it?
No, but you know, things happen.
Yeah, they do.
Tell I'm growing. Can't you tell? Normally I'd be hussing and fussing, and all upset, cursing.
And it's still busy. So I know he said he was trying to get the Wi-Fi up and running again because his link said no internet connection. So to all of the people that are watching with great anticipation for this man, we are feeling the same way you do. Because let me tell you, we could have this guy on for an entire week and you would only hear maybe 20% of the stories that he has to tell you. Okay, let's see. Could that possibly be him? Hello? Okay, any success? No success at all. So Earl and all the audience is going to be privy to this also. Do you think we should reschedule for another date and not deprive our audience of the richness that we're going to hear coming from Mario's mouth?
Over the phone itself?
Can we do it like that? Can you hear that? Talk, Mario. Mario?
Yes.
Okay. Can you hear that, Earl?
Yes.
Okay. Then let's do it that way. If we have to do it that way, we have to do it that way. So, Mario, we had just played the video from Japan when your father was there, and I was explaining that that was an entertainment show, a variety show, like we would liken to the Ed Sullivan Show, and your father's band went there and made such a splash. And thank God to those Japanese that kept that video so I could use it. So tell us a little bit about that from what your father told you about being in Japan.
Well, you could well imagine it was his first visit to Japan, and it was a tremendous success. I think they were supposed to be there a week or 10 days. They wound up staying 6 weeks at a club called the Golden Akasaka in Tokyo. They were there, I guess, like every night of the week to do 2 shows a night. They did a lot of radio. They did a lot of TV. They did a lot of Armed Forces network. And it really was, like a huge door opener for everybody else to follow. It was, a tremendous experience for him. And really just opened again the doors for the band to go overseas and do these type of performances. You're always very happy to be king in your own castle, but it's pretty nice when you could go overseas and have that level of success. It was a huge boost for the band.
Was it their first overseas trip or not?
No, they had already, again, as I say, they had done most of South America: Colombia, Panama, Venezuela, Peru, Puerto Rico, Santo Domingo, Haiti, and of course, coast to coast, California to New York. But as far as Asia, that was their first trip there. So then, again, that was a really big move, great opportunity, and they certainly took advantage of it.
Well, I was mentioning that I usually ask every guest if they've come from a musical family. Well, we don't have to ask that of you. I was just talking about your Tio Mario and your Tia Graciela, just 2 of the names. Were there more famous musicians in your family?
Well, no, really. It was Gracie and Mario and my father. My mother had 2 left feet as far as dancing was concerned. So then certainly it didn't come from her side. But it was really my Uncle Mario and my Aunt Gracie that were huge influences on me. From the time I was born all the way through until 75. So that was really the background. And my father, of course, and all the tremendous musicians in the band, especially the rhythm section. My first teacher, Uba Nieto, Jose Manuel Sr., and Patato Valdez. Those are my 3 greatest influences. So it really came from my dad's side of the family.
Okay. And how old were you when you started taking drumming lessons of any sort?
I guess 4 or 5 with our drummer, Uba Nieto. We used to spend our summers up at the Concord Hotel for 10 weeks. So then I would listen to him, practicing on a daily basis. Picked up my love of the instrument from him and started with him. He gave me all the basics as a kid. And then my Uncle Mario continued that education by sending me to the best teachers and drum authors in the world that were really based right here in New York City. Henry Adler, Norman Grossman, Joel Rothman, Sam Ulano, those guys who between them have written well over 200-300 drum books. So then that was my initial training, which ran about 10 years. From when I was 5 till I was about 15, I studied regularly with them on a rotating basis. So then that was my initial training, which has held me in good stead all my life.
Well, I was just mentioning the fact that you started smoking cigars when you were 5. Will you tell us how that came about?
Well, my Uncle Mario, my beloved namesake, was a cigar smoker all his life. So as a kid, I used to light his cigars, and he would give me the band, the ring, on the cigars to wear. So So then one day I took a couple of puffs, and he figured if you let me smoke a little bit, I'd be sick to my stomach. But it was just the opposite. I loved it, and I've been smoking cigars all my life, and especially with Mario. I would come back from a trip, especially to England or Spain or France, where Cuban cigars were readily available, and I'd spend like $200-300 on cigars, and then we would get every ashtray that he had in his house and light them all up. You know what I mean? And just sample them all with a bottle of Havana Club, or actually he preferred Scotch. So then we would sit and just hang out the whole day, enjoying those cigars and something really dynamite to drink. So then, I've been smoking cigars pretty much all my life. I've cut back over the last few years, but I certainly do still enjoy a good cigar.
Can you tell us who was in the horn section? I mentioned a couple of people in that Japan video. I mentioned Doc Cheatham, and I mentioned Chocolate. I know your Uncle Mario was in there. Who else of note was in that horn section?
Well, you had Doc Cheatham back there. You had Chocolate Almentero, Emilio Riales, who is, still alive and kicking in Puerto Rico, and Chaparro from Venezuela in the saxophone section. Great section guys that have been with my dad a long time. Leslie Jonikins, Mario, Danny Turner, the great Mauricio Smith, and Eddie Chambly on tenor sax. And then a really dynamite rhythm section of Rene Hernandez on piano, Gita on bass, Uva Nieto piano, Virgilio Marti on conga, and Julian Cabrera on bongo. So it was a really dynamite, sounding band, very high energy band, full of, great soloists, both in the Latin format and in the jazz format. Great band.
Hey, we've got a question from one of our friends. Where's Norberto? In North Carolina?
North Carolina.
North Carolina. And he's tuning in. He says, why did they make the name the Afro-Cubans? That was such a huge statement, especially during those times. So can you elaborate on that?
Well, that was exactly it. It's Cuban music, which originally comes from Africa. And the players that Mario Bowser brought into the band, especially having come from jazz orchestras. Remember, Mario Bowser worked with Noble Sissel, Jimmy Lunsford, Cap Calloway, Chick Webb. So he brought with him the Machito Orchestra all these African-American players to add to the orchestra. So as a result, Afro-Cuban only made sense. And again, at that time, nobody was announcing anything about Afro or Cuban in particular. So Mario really pioneered that concept of mixing those two nationalities together. And certainly it's a formula that worked and works to this day.
Well, it's so interesting because even at that time, African Americans had no affinity toward the name, or certainly not the continent. It's not like us that we know where our ancestors.
Hey. Okay. Seems like there's a technical difficulty. Hold on for a moment and maybe we'll come back. Hopefully we'll come back with Eileen. Let me call her and see what's going on. But thank you guys for tuning in. We'll get this straight right quick. Thank you for being so patient. Yeah. You're right. Okay. Try to go back in again, and I'll let you in. Yeah, yeah. I'm telling them that I'm talking to you now. They know. All right. Okay. Things happen, guys. We will be back. Hope everybody's having a very blessed and productive day. This gentleman has so much to talk about. I mean, can you imagine the stories that he can tell? Playing with his father's band since a young man, since being a young man. Crazy. Okay. Well, here's what we're going to do. We're going to play a video of.
Dale jamón a la jeva, que comelona, que comelona. Dale jamón a la jeva, que comelona, que comelona. Dale jamón a la jeva, que comelona, que comelona. Dale jamón a la jeva, que comelona, que comelona. Dale jamón a la jeva, que comelona, que comelona. La hija de Juan Simón le gusta mucho el jamón cuando lo come sabroso, que ella goza como el culo ve. ¡Ay! Dale jamón a la jeva, que comelona, que comelona.
All right. I don't know what happened there. Tonight's our night for having technical problems.
That's all right. We worked through it. There's still people here.
Okay, well, I want to talk about what it was like visiting your family. Like, who might be over your uncle and aunt's house?
Well, it was really a cavalcade of stars. The same thing that you had. Dizzy Gillespie, Stan Getz, Stan Kenton. I mean, it would run the full gamut. Count Basie, Duke Ellington, Dexter Gordon. They were all regular visitors to the house. My dad would cook for them. So they would come and be there, 2, 3, 4 hours, just, having dinner and conversation, listening to records. So it was really great to, be in contact, such close contact with these individuals who are titans in our music, just listening to them and their conversation was, like an education which you just can't beat, when you're getting that contact with these type of really incredible musicians. The same thing with Tito Puente, Tito Rodriguez, Benny Moré, Ray Barretto. It was great. Charlie Palmieri. It was fantastic to have these guys at our home and share that experience with them.
How old were you when you first went to the Palladium?
I was 5 years old, and I played a timbale solo, standing on a chair with Tito Puente, which was pretty cool. And I love them and still do to this moment because he was by far the greatest influence on me as far as the instrument and my love of the music in general. Tito was very much like a second father in many ways, and a tremendous supporter of me and of the orchestra after my father passed away. He was one of the very first, if not the first person, who extended a hand of friendship and of help in any way that I needed it. So I'll forever be grateful to him.
There's a question. I don't understand it, but maybe you will and you can answer it. Brian Martinez wants to know who was on the tree in the back in your dad's band in 1965.
Who was what?
On the tree.
On the tree.
Yeah. Okay. Does it make sense to you, Brian? Clarify your question. Okay, Mario. Let's go. Your father. Fortunately, I had the great privilege to see his orchestra live one time at the Village Gates Monday night salsa meets jazz, and it was a totally different experience because I went every Monday night, and this Monday night the band was not on the stage. They were to the aisle left of the stage as you would be heading to the men's restroom. So do you know any reason why your band got set up there instead of the stage?
Honest to God, I don't remember. I couldn't tell you why. They may have had some, there was always two bands on Salsa Meets Jazz, so it's quite possible there wasn't enough room to do the setup for both bands on the stage at that time. So they moved one left and one right. That could be the reason.
Okay, well, what I have to tell you is that I never met your father, but I observed him, and just observing him walking around, I fell in love with him like he was my grandfather. I never met him. I just saw him, and I saw something coming out of him that just resonated with me. Okay, tell us about your father's relationship with Tito Puente and Tito Rodriguez.
Well, he loved the two of them because, he was like 10, 15 years older than both of them, and so he saw them come up. Remember, Tito Puente came into Machito's band when he was like 16 years old, before he went into the Navy. So then Daddy knew Tito all his life, and the same with Tito Rodriguez, and he loved them both. The spirit of competition, that was great. I asked my father one time, who did you prefer to play opposite in the Palladium, Tito Puente or Tito Rodriguez? And his response to me was, no, I wanted them both at the same time. And so, well, what do you mean? He said, well, Tito would kick the butt out of Tito. Tito would kick the butt out of Tito. So then by the time that they got to me, they were exhausted. And with a cha-cha, I could knock the two of them over. So then that spirit of competition is really what I learned and what I love. There's nothing better than playing opposite another band, especially a dynamite band. I enjoy it to this day. My attitude is, take no prisoners. My intention is to run over them like a Mack truck. Roll over them again. I want them to go home thinking, what the heck happened tonight? These guys kicked us. That spirit of competition, I feel, is extremely important. Now, once we're off the bandstand, we're the best of friends. We'll go out, we'll have dinner, we'll have a drink at the bar. Fantastic. But on the bandstand, it's a winner take all.
Very cool, very cool. I want to ask you a couple of more questions about your father before we go into your carrying on his legacy. And did your father have any bands that he particularly enjoyed seeing?
I think all of them. He loved Tito Puente's band, Tito Rodriguez's band. He loved Ray Barretto, Pacheco, Larry Harlow, Benny Morey, Orchestra Broadway, Típica 73, Peter Conde. All these guys, had put together really dynamite bands. And again, in the spirit of competition, it's great to play opposite those bands because it makes you reach for a higher level. So then all of those bands were his favorites. He loved Bobby Rodriguez and La Compañía.
Wow.
He loved Willie Colon and Hector Lavoe. He was very broad as far as his likes. for all the different bands that were on the scene. The funniest thing was he was also a big fan of AC/DC, Quiet Riot, and Metallica.
Wow.
You know? So then his listening went right across the board. He also was a Beethoven fan. So then, like I say, his listening scope was very broad.
Wow. And your father many times could be seen doing his thing with his eyes closed. Was there a reason for that?
Yes, because he couldn't watch dancers who were dancing out of clubbing. Some people thought he was in deep meditation. No, just I feel the same way. I mean, sometimes you're playing and you hear a guy playing the clave on a beer bottle backwards. It totally drives me insane. And the same thing with Machito. So it wasn't him being in deep thought or in a trance. It was just him not watching out of clave dancers.
Okay, that's funny. So let's talk about the tour your father was on when he passed away. Talk about that tour.
Well, man, you know, that was, we had just begun a European tour. We started in Holland first. We had played a few concerts in Amsterdam. We took the ferry across the North Sea to Dover. And then we went in to play what was going to be a week at Ronnie Scott's Jazz Club, the premier jazz club of Great Britain, and certainly the top jazz spot when it comes to Europe in general, I think. We played the first night, second night, and his thing, you know, Daddy was the eternal tourist. So he would always get up and go see the changing of the guard. He liked that at Buckingham Palace, and, you know, hang out in Piccadilly and watch the punks. You know, he got a kick out of that. So then when we finished that night, the second night, I believe, he told me, look, I'm going to be up early. I told him, man, you know what? You got to rest, man. You know, chill out for the day. We got a whole week. You got plenty of time to see the changing of the guard. Just relax. Take it easy. You know, we got 5 weeks in front of us. So just rest up. You know, I'll see you on the bandstand. Forget about everything else. But in that overnight, he suffered a stroke. We got him into the hospital immediately, obviously. But the very last thing that he told me was, make good on this engagement. You know, just like New York is the center of America, London is the center of Europe. So then make good on this. Take care of business, which we did. He waited, honestly, for my brother and my sisters to come in, flew in from New York to London, and they were able to say goodbye, which was fantastic. And then we finished out, like he told me, I finished out the week at Ronnie Scott's, and then we came home. Obviously, an incredible experience for me and all of us, but very true to the tradition. He went out with his boots on, you know, doing what he loved to do and what brought him, you know, the greatest joy. And that was to play his music for the people that loved it and enjoyed it. So we continue on that mission. This past year was our 80th anniversary. We did a really fabulous concert here in the City University of New York, Hostos, which was fantastic. And it gave us a chance to, you know, revisit a lot of music that we don't normally play and that we haven't played in a while, and a chance to get to see those old timers that are still around. I think the average age of our audience was 117. So that was pretty cool. But what was great was that they came with their children, their grandchildren, their great-grandchildren, and that's what this music is all about, the continuation for me. When your father and I made this band, we didn't want it to last a week, a month, or a year. We wanted it to last forever. So we're coming close to that goal. I hope I can make another 80 years.
Well, Brian Martinez is asking, are you going to do an anniversary album on the 100th year anniversary?
Well, I'll be 85 at that point. I don't know if I'll still be sticking around, but I have two incredible grandsons who are gifted, and I'm hoping that they can continue in the tradition. The 100th would be nice. I hope I can make it, but 80 was pretty good. I enjoyed that one.
And you'll do a 90th? It's only 10 years.
Definitely.
Okay, cool.
I definitely would like to do that. That would be great. And I'd like to get to different cities, because there were so many cities here in America that Daddy really loved playing. Chicago, Detroit. We played in Lorain, Ohio 100 years ago. There's a ton of Puerto Ricans down there.
Yeah.
So we played in Lorain. So then I'd like to do that again. That would be really very nice.
What were some of the most memorable venues that you played? Because you played all over the world and in different locations. What are some of the most memorable venues you played?
Well, I would have to say, obviously, here in New York, Carnegie Hall, Lincoln Center, the Chicago Jazz Festival in Grant Park was great. The Detroit festival, fantastic. The Hollywood Bowl, quite excellent. Best sound I've ever heard in my life.
Wow.
Then the Berlin Philharmonic, the Concert Gebouw in Holland. Too many. The North Sea Jazz Festival in Holland. There's so many incredible venues that I've had the opportunity to play. The Pori Jazz Festival in Finland. It's just too many to name. But I, in particular, I really like that Hollywood Bowl and the Berlin Philharmonic. Incredible quality of sound. It's like being in the recording studio. So those venues I like very much.
Wow. And now that it is your responsibility to carry on the legacy, how soon will you be issuing another CD?
Well, I just finished doing a CD with a sextet. My promoters are telling me the band is too big to book.
Boy, yes.
I had a budget of $100,000 last year to do tour. I spent $40,000 of it on airfare. So you can imagine, the cost is high. So I felt the sextet would be a good idea, which has worked out really very well. And I've also been working at the jazz with Dizzy Gillespie, Afro-Cuban Experience, which has been great. So then, I have plans for a big band album, maybe next year. Again, as soon as we get out of this crazy pandemic and get back to normal, it's something I definitely want to do.
Well, everyone's so hungry for it. There may be a way, to get financing. It's just amazing now that you have to have such a scaled down version of anything to get any work. It's a real shame. You just mentioned Dizzy Gillespie. Were you also close to him?
Oh, God, yeah. I love Dizzy because Dizzy also was extremely important for the survival of Machito Orchestra. He put us back on the map by having us be his accompanying orchestra on several tours here in America and in Europe. So Dizzy really is hugely responsible for the continuation of Machito Orchestra.
Well, I heard a story, and you can tell me if it's true, that you guys really weren't in demand after your father left, and you weren't really being booked.
No,
Um,
not at all.
okay.
You brought us back to life by demanding, literally, that we accompany him. And I think that put us back on the map.
And did Dizzy lead that band?
What?
The question is, did Dizzy lead your band?
No, I did.
Okay.
Whenever Dizzy worked with us,
Say that again?
we played Dizzy music.
Uh-huh.
We played Machito music.
Mm-hmm.
And Dizzy would play that. He preferred to do that. So that was great. You know, it was a marriage made in heaven.
Wonderful. So I just want to go back real quick to when you were younger and you were in, gosh, where the Concord Hotel. How did you spend your summers there?
Well, Daddy played 22 summers at the Concord, 10 weeks every summer, from June to Labor Day, which was incredible. It gave me the opportunity to see the real pros at work. Sammy Davis, Tony Bennett, Steve Reniti, Liberace, you name it, they were there. So to have that opportunity was great. It only helps you polish and, shine your skills. So that was a tremendous experience for us.
Wow. So are there any stories that you want to tell us about your experiences with the band as it is, or previous?
Well, I grew up listening to the band, especially those 10 weeks. They used to play 6 nights a week. So it gave me the opportunity to hear all of the book, which is over 1,000 arrangements.
Wow.
I just donated to the Library of Congress in Washington, D.C., the Machito Archives, which includes a little bit over 150 scores to arrangements of the band and countless arrangements and personal memorabilia, which is on display. That only will help in the continuation of the orchestra and people to have the experience to, see it and hear it. So that's a great thing.
Well, Reuben Blades often referred to your father as the great statesman of mambo.
Right. Again, Library of Congress is the place to be. So that they've already had so many people, musicians, composers, arrangers, who have come down to take a look at this material for their own personal study. So that's a great thing. I want to get my grandsons down there to see it as well. That's a great thing. They're 7 and 5, so they got a long way ahead of them. But I'd love for them to get down there and know that their great-grandfather was such a force and musical influence. As far as what we consider American music is Afro-Cuban jazz. That's American music. It's an American hybrid. So that's a great thing.
I was always surprised to see a Machito and Lalo Rodriguez collaboration. How did that come about?
Well, we had signed a contract with Coco Records with the incredible Harvey Run. And Lalo had just done a couple of Grammy-nominated award-winning albums with Eddie Palmieri. again sometime.
Yeah, that was a tremendous LP that I purchased many years ago. Were there other artists that you would not have expected or were a little surprised that your father collaborated with? You know, with Lalo and your father, that was, you know, like 3 generations difference. And anyone else in that category?
Well, his collaborations, obviously, along with Mario Grillo, Charlie Paulson, Gillespie, Drew Moore, Dexter Gordon. I mean, these are all incredible. Cannonball Adderley. These are all great collaborations. Joe Newman. So to have those kind of combinations in coordination with Machito Orchestra, and in particular Afro-Cuban jazz, those are groundbreakers and continue to be heard and studied by anyone who is an aficionado of this music. So those were big and very important for Machito, but for the industry as a whole.
Can you share the story about your father telling you you needed to get rid of a musician by the next morning?
Yeah, well, we got a crazy tenor saxophone player in the band, and my father comes and tells me, listen, man, you know what? Come tomorrow, I want to see this guy. Take care of it. I said, well, okay, I can do that, but we get another tenor. I mean, we're in the middle of Europe. So don't worry about it. I'll have somebody here tomorrow. You know, okay. So then I go to the room, pay the guy, give him his airline ticket, send him home. Now we get to the airport ourselves. We get to the next city. And as I'm walking through the airport, I see this person laying across a bench covered with newspapers, a tenor sax case, you know, taped up with duct tape, and a rope for a handle. I said, oh, God, what do we got here? But then here comes Machito, you know, wakes the guy up. Guy gets up, he's hugging him, he's kissing him, and I say to myself, well, okay. And he says, hey, look, I've got our tenor sax for the rest of the trip. I said, well, who do we have? This is Dexter Gordon. So, you know, can you imagine, you know, having Dexter Gordon in the saxophone section of the Machito Orchestra? I mean, you know, it's like being in heaven. So that was a tremendous experience. And after Dexter went home halfway through, the one who replaced him was Charlie Rouse, who had been with Mingus for many, many years. So then to have that experience and those kind of players come into the band at a moment's notice was quite incredible.
Yeah, amazing. All of the things you witnessed and observed firsthand. You know, where else would we get this information? We would never have access to these stories, these real life occurrences that become part of this history. And as you know, this music is so beloved around the world, and your father's music will live on forever. What do you think are the qualities that endear his music, his style, to people of so many races and ethnicities around the world?
You know what? I can't quite put my finger on it. I can only tell you we got more fans in Helsinki, Finland, than in the Bronx, New York. You know, which is pretty crazy. You know, but it's truly, music is an international language, as we know. And like Dad used to say, what's good is good, and it lasts forever. And we seem that to be very true. The other thing is, Machito as a person was extremely accessible. You know, he was not aloof in any means or ways that you could possibly imagine. I mean, he stopped and talked to anybody, you know, and after hello and goodbye, it was a half-hour conversation. So I think that endeared him to people and his fellow musicians and band leaders, he was very comfortable in his own skin and very sure of what he could do and what the band could do. And that's a great thing, you know, when you feel secure in what you do. And in that case, he was very secure. So I think that was the connection, just his availability and a sense of vulnerability to the many people that loved his music.
Tell us your father's philosophy of no empty chairs.
Well, that he always felt, I mean, in the true jazz format, in an orchestra, you generally have two soloists. You know, one guy in the sax section, one guy in the trumpet section. But Daddy's philosophy was everybody played. The reason for that is now that musician knows he's not a dead chair, but a living chair, they have an opportunity to come out and play and expose their talent to that audience. Not only that, but they're going to send their suits to the cleaners. They're going to iron their shirt. They're going to polish their shoes because they know they're going to have the opportunity to come out front. And many years ago myself, I had a new guy in the band, a new saxophone player, and we were in the middle of a mambo and ensemble, and I turned around and I pointed to him. He just looked at me, you know. I turned around, I pointed again. You know, he kept looking at me like I had three heads. So when we finished the concert, I grabbed him backstage. I told him, yo, man, I pointed to you 3 times to come out and play a solo. You didn't come out. He said, me? Play a solo? I said, yeah. He said, man, I just came out of Ray Charles fan. I was there 5 years. I never played a solo. You know, this is a situation. Everybody gets to play. And he immediately said to me, wow, I'm going to send my suit to the cleaners. You know, and he was right. You know, when you have an opportunity to come out front, not only do you want to sound your best, you want to look your best. And it keeps everybody alert because they don't know who I'm going to point to. It could be any one of 16 guys. So that's a good thing. I believe in that. And I do that to this day.
Well, we saw a lot of that in the first video we played from Japan, because there were all kind of solos being taken. And, you know, it's like each one got a little bit spicier, a little hotter. So I guess that philosophy was instituted early on.
Oh, yeah, it works. You know, there's nothing worse than being in a band and sitting there all night and not have the opportunity to blow, you know. And especially when you got guys who are great soloists. I mean, what better? So I very much believe in that. And like I say, I continue it to this day.
Alrighty.
I got a question. Mario, I'm an avid big band follower. I love big band music. I really haven't said much in the interview because I can't even believe that I'm sitting here having a conversation with you about big band and your father's legacy. But my question to you is, we did a video earlier when we were having technical difficulties, and I'm getting old, but I thought I saw Pupo playing along with you. Is that correct?
Oh, yes, that's right. Well, Pupo came into the band in the 80s, right after he had been working with Hector for many years. He was his musical director. So we needed a pianist to come out on a tour. As a matter of fact, he did a 10-week tour with Machito Orchestra that included 13 countries and 35 cities. We played 55 concerts in 66 days. And Pupo was pianist. He also recorded with us. Daddy used to call him a jockey, because that's exactly what he is. As far as big band playing is concerned, he's the guy with the level of energy and power that you need to move that rhythm section. So he has been with me well over 30 years now. Tremendous player, tremendous friend. friend and a huge asset to the orchestra.
Yes, 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 definitely. Wow. Yeah, we had him at an event here, and I became friends with him. As you said, a great person and a great musician. Yeah,
Yes,
yes.
absolutely, without question. And one of the nicest guys you'll ever want to meet. As I say, I have great love for him and great respect as really a very high level and skilled musician. Tremendous pianist.
Okay. All right. Thanks.
Once again, I believe that most lovers of music do not fully appreciate the hours and hours and years that go into getting your art to perfection. And I know a lot of the best say, well, I'm not there yet. In fact, I remember they asked Pablo Picasso, why he practices every day. He says, because I've got to get better. And they said, well, you're the greatest. He said, I'm getting there, So it's a very different mindset. And so many of the musicians that have been associated with your father's band and your band have started from childhood and picked the greatest available teachers, read all the best books in their instrument, and gone on to give us what makes us so darn happy. This music, even if you can't understand one word of what's being said, you are happy. And you can get into the zone where you leave everything else behind. And I, for one, just want to say to you, Mario, who's been playing since you were 5, thank you for doing that for us, because you give us a break from reality.
Well, music, as you know, is the international language of all languages. And when you can reach and touch somebody in Germany or France or Japan or Soviet Union, I finished doing this for a couple of years ago. We were in Istanbul, Turkey. We went to Latvia. It's pretty wild, when you get to be so far away from home and have people appreciate what you do. It's my favorite. I love it, and I hope I can continue to do it up until my last day. That's my goal, to continue to perpetuate the music, and in particular the music of Machito.
Right. Are there any last words you'd like to say about your father, his legacy, and your being the keeper of the legacy?
Well, the only thing I can say about Machito is we used to call him Daddy Yes, because he never said no to anything. You tell him, Daddy, I want to go to the zoo. Daddy, I want to go to the ball game. Daddy, I want to jump out the window. He said, yeah, go ahead. He never said no. We loved him dearly. Not a day goes by that he's not present in our life. He was the alpha and the omega of everything for us. I miss him terribly. I only wish he could have lasted me another 20 years, absorbing everything that he had to offer. 25 years, 35 years wasn't enough. I needed more, but I feel his presence, in particular when we play the music. I feel him there, and that's a great thing. And so do his fans. So that is my mission statement, to continue to play the music worldwide, and people be exposed to it either for the first time or having to hear it again after 40, 50 years. It's a great thing. So that's my goal. That's my objective. And to stick around long enough to see my grandsons as grown men
You know, I forgot one question, and that's about what was the relationship between your father and Hector Lavoe?
Oh man, Daddy loved Hector because he felt that Hector had something which is the most important thing, and that is that connection with his audience. He had great feeling in his voice and in the lyrics. So then that's why to this day, so many people love Hector Lavoe. And Daddy was a big fan of his, as he was a fan of Daddy's. So then, again, Hector was the very first person who called me at home and told me, bro, if there's anything you need from me, if there's any way that I can help you, call me. I'll do it. A great person, great artist, sorely missed by his fans and fellow musicians who had the opportunity to know him and work with him. Great artist. Loved him. Still do.
Right. Earl, any parting words?
No, I just wanted to thank Mr. Grillo for coming on to the show. I'm just flabbergasted. I don't have anything to say. I'm just feeling so good that I was even a part of this conversation. And I want to thank Mr. Grillo for coming on to the show.
Well, thank you so much for having me, and I hope I can get down there someday and we could do lunch like they say in Hollywood. I look forward to that opportunity.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, Mario, you're one of the easiest guys to talk to and get to know. You're so open, you're so friendly, you're so forthcoming, and I knew tonight would be a tremendous asset to anyone who was listening. Unfortunately, you know, we can't see your great face, but I think we made the best of, you know, overcoming the difficulties we had. And I want to say thank you for being available for so many phone calls to discuss your father and your life and all the musicians around you that you knew, that influenced you. And that's it.
Well, thank you. Thank you. I know that your listeners must be very astute if they're listening in to you guys. So thank you. It was fun to talk to you. I hope we can do it again. I hope we can do it in person, physically in person. That would be great.
Oh, my God, yes.
But again, you know, I'm a phone call away. So don't hesitate at any time. Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity.
All right. Bye-bye, Mario. Whoops. Just dropped the phone.
Okay.
All right, Earl.
Eileen, great as always. You know, like I told Mr. Grillo, I'm in awe. I mean, you know how, and you know, you more than anybody knows how much I love big band. So, you know, I'm going crazy over here. And also next week we have Mitch Froman coming up next week. So we're going to interview him next week. I'll probably say a little bit more than I said this week. Like I said, I was almost speechless. But thank you so much for Eileen for all that you do for the show. And it's great to see you as always. And we're going to wrap it up.
Love the music. Got to keep teaching people about who these fabulous musicians are.
All right. Okay. All right. I'll talk to you later, Eileen. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.